It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, June 30th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that is turning the page from the Flyers draft class to free agency.
Well, we turned it quick. Okay.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I first want to take a second on behalf of both of us to thank all of our newer listeners and viewers on YouTube who have joined us since and right leading up to the draft. Welcome to the Locked On Flyers fam. It's been quite a ride this year, so we're glad to have you along. And speaking of the draft, before we do turn that page to free agency, and of course, we'll have our nemesis of the week and a new offseason poll question as we do on Mondays right now. Now that we've sat on the draft class for a day, how are we feeling about it, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at a few more players. I think it was a good draft. I think there was a way it could have been a great draft, but I think it was a good draft. I mean, it's solid. Yeah. I just, again, I don't want to keep getting into perpetual discussion about how they got Jack Nesbitt. Jack Nesbitt's fine. He's a good player. He's just not going to be a great player. That's all. And so that's okay. If he's a good player and it's what they want, that's fine. I'm not going to malign that at all. I like the guy. I like the way he plays. There's just a limit to, what he'll do. And that's fine. That's where I'm at with that. Porter Martone, terrific.
Love him. Absolutely
I tweeted
love
today, he definitely should go to college. He definitely should not be playing on the team. He needs to work out, get stronger. He could always come in on the back end of the season if there's some games left, to get his feet wet. But no way would I want him to sign or anything like that. And
we will get into that aspect of it later in the show. Spoiler
but otherwise,
alert,
it's a good group. And I think they filled some of the needs, and there's still a hope on one of the needs, and then they missed one of the needs. So they got most of what they wanted.
Yes, I think so. And I think that I still feel like there could have been a different path. I don't know if it's going to turn out to be better or not, to be honest. Whether, Martone and Nesbitt added together is going to achieve the same results as, you asked me on our bonus episode that we did on Saturday night, if they had gotten Hagens and Victor Eklund, for instance. Right. You look at those two comparisons because the other option was definitely available to the Flyers where they were picking. And so I think, down the road, we'll make those comparisons. I think the Flyers just chose a different path. And I like the players that we got, to your point. I just think that there's definitely a different option there that the Flyers had emphasized in terms of getting somebody with a 1C ceiling to their game. And, we'll see how it turns out. But again, I love Porter Martone. I think he's a fantastic player. And I think he's going to make an excellent Philadelphia Flyer. I think he's going to fit in. And like I said on the bonus episode, I really think that those 4 second-round picks were a home run. And I'm so thrilled with them because I think even if 2 out of 4 of them hit, the Flyers did an A+ job.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for. Odds are that's, you would be beating the odds if you did that.
Right. So looking forward to Dev Camp, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the week as that gets going, where we'll get to see some of these prospects on Flyers ice for the first time. We will talk about that then. The other aspect of it is the Zegras trade and how that affected the center conversation here. And I think that's a fair point. I think that if you think Trevor Zegras has 1C potential, at least for the next 3 or 4 years, that's great. And I think that could fill that need until the Flyers have the cap space or the wherewithal or are on the cusp and can trade or free agent a higher level 1C that rounds out the team. And I think that's also a distinct possibility for the future.
Yeah, I just feel like there's this split in the fan base, though. Half of them know that, yeah, if Zegras does that, he's biding time for when all these other guys come and then the team starts to, move up the ladder better with free agents and stuff. And then there's another part of the fan base that thinks that this is going to get them to the playoffs. And I see both online. And clearly Danny thinks it's the first one, where it's
Right.
if Zegras is there to buy time.
That's what I see too.
Right. And it's so if Zegras is there to buy time, that's good. If it's there because they have to go one more draft to maybe get that exact center they're looking for, then fine.
Also okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's the former.
Yeah. But again, I just feel like there's a little bit of pushback from a fair amount of fans, and that's fine. You have your right to do that.
Yeah, we certainly understand the multiple perspectives here because I think they're all valid.
Yeah.
To be honest. Now, the other thing that happened draft weekend that we didn't really talk about yet was the CBA extension for 4 more years through 2030, which makes a huge change to the NHL in creating an 84-game regular season, which I don't love if they didn't match that up with a cutting the preseason to 4 games, which was long overdue. I think, we have this one upcoming season with the 7 preseason games for the Flyers, and this would kick in the following year.
Yeah, I've said it before, and if I haven't, I really like Marty Walsh. Like, I really like him. I respected Donald Fear, and that's as far as I go. I respected him, but I really like Walsh, and I think he brought something to this position and really helped his people while, Gary did his job for his. And again, when
Walsh is with the Players Association, in case you didn't know.
And when when Major League Baseball strikes in a year, this is going to look like a pretty good deal for hockey because they're still going to be in business. So, I was thrilled, and it was funny because I don't know what I was doing, but all of a sudden it was at night, and we were like, "Oh, there's a press conference in the morning with Gary Bettman," and we were all like, "Oh, I guess the CBA's been signed." Like, it really rapidly advanced.
Yeah, they did such a great job with the negotiations and getting it done without any noise or any consternation. Like, they just did the work and got it done.
Like,
and
with Bob Goodnow, all the nastiness that was it was bad.
What a mess. Well, there's some contract related updates in the CBA as well. So we have no more 8-year contracts. It gets cut down to 7 if you're re-signing, and 6 if you're signing with a new team. Right. And there's going to be a playoff salary cap mechanism to close the LTIR loophole.
And it's going up that amount every year.
It will. And the deferred salary contracts are no longer allowed. So I think, there's a lot of these changes are very league friendly, but not so damaging to the players that they can't make a lot of money with the salary cap going up.
No, I mean, there's a way to make a fair amount of money. The one that's kind of friendly to the players is the second salary retention. You could retain salary, and then 75 days later, you could retain salary on the same player. So now you don't have to get a third team involved. And so that means, players can get out of, teams can get out of players' deals. Players can move quicker now after that 75 days after they do it the first time. So that if we add up 75 days, it's before the trade deadline. So that's going to give players an extra chance for movement. And I think that's good for them.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was the elimination of paper moves. So if a player gets loaned to the AHL, they're going to have to report. And then they will also have to play at least 1 game unless an injury takes place or something, I guess. But before the NHL club can recall that player. That's really interesting.
Yeah, which is fair because I think, again, late in the season, Alexei Kolosov, he didn't even want to report. So the Flyers didn't really send him down. He did go earlier in the season. He didn't go late. So now this would he'd have to go for at least a game now. Like there would be no way around it. Same with Fedotov. Like you'd have to go. And I think that's fair. Like it's like, you know what? That's the way it is. Even though you may not like it, nobody likes getting sent down to the minors in Major League Baseball either, especially when you've had a taste of the big leagues. But it happens.
Right. I think it is fair. I do think it's gonna be odd, like the first time it happens.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is for sure. But I think it's fair. The other fair thing is the league minimum salary going up in concert with the salary cap going up. So
Yeah.
it's going to be $1 million by the end of this agreement in
Right.
2030. And I think that's also long overdue, having the minimum go up at a more significant pace.
Yeah, I think these poor players, you know, the cost of living and everything, it's killing them out there. I'm kidding. But it's still a nice
No, but they do
competitive
have to
salary.
give a huge chunk of their salaries
They do.
to managers and agents and
Sure. No,
whoever.
no doubt. No doubt.
And
I think it's
it's a
fair. It's low compared to other sports, and it's high compared to the average person. Like that's the way it is.
Sure. I believe that. The one thing that's kind of annoying to me is the full-time e-bug
I like it. What do you
situation.
mean? Why is that
Listen,
annoying?
practically, it makes sense. I get having a full-time emergency backup goalie. It just creates more consistency. It makes it a better paid position. You don't
Right.
have to mess up
Yeah.
with game day contracts. I understand it. But emotionally, I love the e-bug story is so good. You have
Yeah,
a
I guess we're
random
gonna lose
accountant.
that part of
You're
it.
going to lose all of the fun side of it once or twice a year, where some miracle happens and an e-bug gets to play and they do the media tour. It's a feel good story, and I
It
think
is.
hockey is going to miss that.
Well, it won't miss it completely because you know there might be a situation where like one day for a home game the e-bug gets a cold, he has the flu, then you're still going to have to go for somebody else. So I think there's still opportunity for it, just less.
Yeah, the other thing I love is no player dress codes. Like, let's go.
Yeah, of
I want to
course.
see
Why
all the
do-
fashion.
Yeah, I'm tired of all the suits and ties. They don't want to wear them. Let them wear track
Nope.
suits or whatever they want to wear. That's fine.
I love it. I cannot wait for the game day fit
Yeah.
social media posts. It's going to be incredible.
Now these
and
guys are going to wear short
I'm gonna
sets in
love it.
Florida. They're going to have crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anything else in there that piqued your interest?
No more fitness training in training camp. So like dev camp, no problem because they're not NHL players yet.
Right.
But I don't know what the deal is with this one. I haven't had enough of a chance to kind of digest it. My first thought is maybe this is a way of the players not letting the team have a lot of data on them, not having too much data. Like maybe it's like a, kind of like a data control thing. Like, and I'm thinking maybe that's a good thing because I go back to when the Eagles had a coach once. It was Chip Kelly, and he was monitoring everybody's sleep, and he was monitoring everybody's heartbeat every minute of every day of everything. And it started in training camp. And some of that can be really intrusive and get somebody off their game, So I think in a way this is a good thing.
All right. Well, looking forward to having all of these kick in the 26-27 season. In the meantime, free agency starts tomorrow, July 1st. So we're going to talk about the Flyers free agency needs versus what they can afford coming up next.
Sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out. It makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. I would still bet with Josh Hader as the American League Cy Young. New to FanDuel, new customers can get just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today and visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, on tomorrow's show, we're going to have more free agency talk with what the Flyers should do versus what they will do prediction-wise, and then look at some predictions for the rest of free agency around the NHL. And on Wednesday, we're going to answer your mailbag questions, so get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. So, Russ, I think the Trevor Zegras trade changed some things for the Flyers for free agency here. I think obviously with his contract costing more money than Ryan Poehling, that window of funds goes down a little bit, but the
Yep.
needs also change because Trevor Zegras is a great addition to the team
No
at
doubt.
low risk, right?
Yeah.
So, in what way do you think it has changed those needs?
I think it's Cam's going to make a little less. I think there's no
Mm-hmm.
way around that. So like, I think he's going to end up getting like, I don't know, like 4.75 or something, on like a 3-year deal, maybe a 4-year deal. I don't know if he's getting a 7-year deal. I don't know about that. So I think it's,
So I want to
yeah,
dig into that a little bit more because I'm wondering, Danny Bears was a little bit cagey about the Cam York contract and the
yeah,
status of it. He kept saying, "Oh, we're talking and things are moving along, but we're
yeah.
just not there yet." Does waiting like hurt Cam York? And do you think that it was the team waiting because they knew this Zegras deal was in the works and they didn't want to figure out York's contract until after the deal was done? Or do you think it was the player side of things in the negotiation or a little bit of both? Because I
No, I
want to
think
know
it's
that answer,
right. I think it's the player side because I believe, and this I'm saying this, I believe because I just flew from the West Coast, but I believe Cam York can be signed to an offer sheet after July 1st if he is not given an offer. And so that could be part of the strategy here.
Okay. I think it's an interesting one because I'd be very curious to see if any team would want to offer sheet Cam York and
Yeah.
make it worth that for them. But I just don't see that happening.
Well,
But
remember
I
the
think
important thing about the offer sheet is yes, the other team is giving you money, but you have to want to do it. If you basically tell the other team you're not interested, they're not actually going to tender the sheet. So
right.
he has to want that too.
Sure, because it's a free agency contract in essence. So
Yeah.
the player has to want it for sure.
And
I
that's
get
why
that.
I think, and he can be offer sheeted. I was double checking. So I believe if the negotiations drag on a couple more days, it's like, hey, if somebody makes an offer sheet and it's more than the Flyers offer, that's going to put pressure on the Flyers to match that offer. So it is in the player's favor if you think about it.
Yeah, I guess that is a fair point. I just think that it's a really interesting dovetailing of this July 1st deadline and the Zegras deal
Everybody has an angle.
and
That's why these agents get paid what they get paid. But again, the flip side of that is I'm not trying to demonize the agents because they could have signed Cam already weeks ago.
right,
But this is
right.
when it goes to the last minute, this is what could happen.
Yeah, so I do see that maybe he could have gotten more money over a shorter term prior to all of this.
Right.
But now that changes, that maybe the money's less. Like maybe the Flyers would say, okay, less money, longer term
Right.
guarantee.
Right.
I think to me, that's how the negotiations would be developing. But again, all of this is happening behind the scenes, and we'll
If it
find out
drags
when we
on, they
find
may
out.
just sign him to a 3-year bridge and just be done with it. So he can't
Ugh,
be offer sheeted. Like it may end
yeah,
up that way.
I don't love that. Don't love that. I would just like to know whether Cam York is ostensibly part of this Flyers team future.
I mean,
Um,
you'll see when we all see, I guess, July 1st
yeah.
offer sheet.
Now, as far as needs, where they might go to the open market as opposed to, we still have Jacob Peltier, but as
Yeah.
we've said, that's a last, we'll get it done when we get it done kind of a contract there. If they, presuming they decide to resign him, which is pretty much guaranteed that they will.
Yeah, he is
But
he has no whatever's left, that's what they're going to offer him.
right, right. So I think, a depth defenseman, that seems to be their typical offseason signing
Yep.
for this situation where the Flyers are in their rebuild.
Yeah, depth defenseman, still a goalie. We could talk about the goalie rumors and a little bit more that have revealed themselves in the past few days. But the defenseman may be the first thing we see or one of the first things we see.
And it's really interesting because I don't know that there's anybody that's just right out there on the market for the Flyers right now. But, because there's the high profile defensemen that are out there like Aaron Ekblad and of course Provorov, which is never going to happen. But
Right.
that's not what the Flyers need right now. So I don't know, man. I think it'll be interesting to see now if, Bowen Byram, if that comes back up again, or Keandre Miller, that comes back up again in terms of RFAs that they either trade for rights or some sort of different situation happens. That's a possibility too, but we'll see.
That's a longer shot. So
Right.
here's what I would say. As an example, free agent wise, maybe John Klingberg.
Maybe.
Because, he does know how to run a power play, and that would improve the power play. And then it would take pressure off of Jamie Drysdale, who's been, mid on the power play. So that's a possibility. Now that we see that Vegas is making their move for Mitch Marner, and it looks like Alex Pietrangelo is going to go on LTIR maybe for the season. We'll see. I don't know if that gets him fully out of cap trouble. So if not, Nicholas Hague could be available for a salary dump kind of trade. So you keep an eye on him.
Right.
I don't think the Rangers would trade Keandre Miller to the Flyers, but Miller's name gets floated out there. So that's another guy that's certainly young and would help them. So, there's that too. But I think the Hague one is a possibility.
Yeah, there's more teeth to that for sure.
There's more teeth to that one. It would be like a couple of years because I think that's what his contract is. So, yeah, that one would make sense. And then, I think it was Elliot Friedman reported that the Flyers had kicked the tires on Pyotr Kochetkov. So I don't know if they would go for the goalie spot. And I don't know if they go back and try and get him. And we talked about Jake Allen before. There's, heavy rumors about Jake Allen, although I spoke to a source for that, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I would say it's more likely that it doesn't, but it's still a possibility. And then beyond that, who was the other goalie that we were thinking about?
Well, it was Ville Husso because
it was Husso, but now he's done. So he's with another team. So
I think that he is with Anaheim, but Anaheim has 3 goalies now.
But teams need 3. You still need 3.
I know, but it's there. It's a possibility. So you have to add him to the list. I think it's unlikely, but you have to add him to the list, in my opinion.
All right.
Because, they got Mrazek back in the Gibson deal. So that's why they have 3 goalies now. So,
and there's no way the Flyers are taking Mrazek back. That's for sure.
No, that is for
that was a bad situation.
Yeah, at least when he was on the Flyers. I think he's done well in other places.
No. I'm just talking about his Flyers time. There was a whole locker thing. There was a lot of things with that were going on at the time.
Yeah. Well, and Claude Giroux is staying in Ottawa, so
that's no surprise. I was talking to a reporter about that, and they were kind of floating to me that, about Claude Giroux, and I'm like, he's staying. He's just going to take less because he wants to be there.
Yeah, we've known that. We've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, it is Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week, as well as a new off-season poll question, plus the little flash poll we did on the draft. So we're going to get into all of that coming up next. All right. So after round 1 of the draft, we put up a Quickie Poll question on our YouTube channel about how you thought the Flyers did in the first round of the draft. So this was all our in the moment feelings about the Flyers. And we got a ton of votes on this one with very interesting results here. The options were in terms of how you thought they did on night 1. Great. Love both Martone and Nesbitt. I was with them on Porter Martone, but trading up was a miss. Didn't like either pick, or I liked Nesbitt, but could have picked him at 22. So the two that were neck and neck at 41% and 40%, great. Love both Martone and Nesbitt. And I was with them on Martone, but trading up was a miss. And I think that's fair. I think
like
that's
where the hockey
how
world
people
is
felt
on that.
Yeah.
They're not alone.
I know. I think the fact that this matched up so perfectly with
Yeah.
what people are feeling, that I think about half of people feel one way and half the other. There's very small percentage didn't like either pick at 4%, which checks out in my opinion. And I think that I like Nesbitt, but could have picked him at 22 was at 15%. I go back and forth whether or not that's true
Right.
now based on information we've gotten
No, I
since
mean, so all
then.
right. So based on information, so Barry Trotz says I would have taken him at 12. Like I would have done it, right? Like he said he would, and I think that's the quote, right? And it's like, okay, just because you would have done it, me personally, if I'm the GM, I'd be like, okay, Barry, you could have him. Not because he's not a good player, because I just don't want to do it that way.
And I think there were equally as good other options available.
Correct.
If that wasn't the case, you take Nesbitt in the heartbeat, but
Right.
I think there were other just as good options on the table.
So I get it. That's part of the game, and sometimes you don't get what you want.
Right. Now
they didn't, and they didn't with Denoyer. Let's be fair; they wanted Denoyer, and they didn't get him.
No, they did not. They were very salty and very vocal about that. That much is certain. Now, this week's poll question for you is, do you think either Jett Luchanko or Porter Martone cracked the Flyers lineup for 8 or more games this season? And I picked the number 8 for us very specifically because it's not 10, but it's not 5, which to me is a little bit more throwaway or like, let's just see what he's got, but we're going to definitely send him back. I feel like 8 is that middle ground that you don't know. So that's why I picked 8.
But it's also, there's contract stuff too once you hit 9 and all that.
Correct. So. Yeah. Correct. So that's why 8 I felt like was the magic number here. So your options are yes, but Jett Luchanko only. Yes, Martone only. Both will or neither will. So those are your options. This is this week's poll. The link to it is in the show notes and it's on our YouTube channel. So let us know what you think. And I think it'll be interesting to see what these results are on Friday.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I can't wait. It'll be fun.
It's a good question. It's a good question because I don't think I know the answer myself yet either.
I don't.
I'm very, very interested to see what the fans think. Turning to our nemesis of the week. Last week, I laugh about this now, but my nemesis was being overly negative about the Flyers and what they'll do at the draft because I felt like I had PTSD about past drafts and what this team has done. And I was definitely negative in the heat of the moment.
Oh,
you talked about that.
No. You peaked when we spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
You peaked. You were at the very top of negativity.
Right. But I think, but as I said on the bonus show, everything that they did on day 2 with the second round, like kind of placated that. And I was in a much better place, but I just felt like I had to go through the gamut of what emotions I went through during the draft on that bonus show. But I think that that is just really funny that that's what my nemesis was last week. Your nemesis was outdoor summer concerts and how you don't know with the weather. It's unpredictable.
It's a crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot and all that. My nemesis this week is kind of silly, but dev camp related in knowing how to dress for dev camp because it is the dog days of summer. It's so hot out, but it's so cold in that rink. I never know like what's the right layering option I should go with and going in and out of the building.
I wear shorts and then I wear this and I can take this off. I'm hot. If I'm in the press room and if I'm out in the rink watching, I'm cold. If I'm cold, I put it back on. That's what I do.
And I lose circulation so easily that like sometimes I have to wear gloves at dev camp just to keep from losing circulation in my hands. So it's always an adventure for me at dev camp.
Can be hard.
Yeah.
Mine is based on the plane flights that I've been taking lately. People have disgusted me on the plane. So my nemesis is just generally how people act on a plane.
Like airplane etiquette?
Airplane etiquette. So I have 3 things. First one is the other day, a woman was combing her hair just right at her seat. And it's like, I don't want somebody combing their hair next to me. I don't like, I would have stopped it. I don't know why that person didn't stop it. Thankfully, nobody was clipping toenails. I've heard that.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
That thankfully did not happen.
Hate that.
I had a person today, not related with like a family or a small child, just have them ask me like, hey, would you give up your aisle seat for the middle seat? And I politely said no. And then when I went to the bathroom and I came back, that guy was in my seat.
Are you kidding me?
No. And I just looked at him like, dude, get the hell out of my
Wow.
seat. I've
That is
never had that
bold.
happen. I've never had that
Bold.
happen. Like he
Ugh,
wanted
don't
my
love that.
seat. Yeah. So all I'm asking is don't act like you're at home in your living room or in your shower when you're on the plane. Thank you.
All right. I think that's a small ask from you, Russ.
It is.
So,
It should be, but maybe not anymore. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. All right. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about free agency with our predictions for what the Flyers will do and what the big deals will be around the NHL. And we're going to give a little dev camp preview as well coming down the pike. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got questions or comments about the draft that you want us to answer, let us know via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off season. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.